you ever considered the weight of a crown? Not the physical weight of gold and jewels, but the weight of relentless expectation, of a life that is never truly one's own. Imagine an existence where every hour, from the moment of waking to the moment of sleep, is prescribed by tradition, duty, and the unblinking eyes of a court. This is not a story of grand battles or passionate romances, but of something far more fundamental: the architecture of a day. A structure so rigid, so meticulously crafted, that it became the very cage that defined a king's life. We will move through these hours together, a slow and steady procession from the first stirrings before dawn to the final silence of the night. Let the rhythm of this ancient routine settle around you, a predictable and steady current that can carry you away from the uncertainties of your own day into the deep, quiet waters of rest. Our king, let us call him Louis, for it is a common name for kings, awakens not to an alarm, but to the presence of his first valet. This is not a sudden awakening. The valet has been waiting in the antechamber for the precise moment, listening for the slightest sound from the royal bedchamber. The room is vast, the ceilings high and painted with scenes of gods and heroes, their dramas frozen in plaster and gilt. The heavy velvet curtains, in a deep royal blue, are drawn back slowly, allowing the first gray light of a pre-dawn sky to seep into the room. The king does not open his eyes to brightness, but to a gradual illumination. This first moment of consciousness is a private threshold, the last truly personal moment he will have all day. His mind, still soft with sleep, might drift to a fragment of a dream, a memory of a forest hunt, or simply the comfort of the linen sheets. But this privacy is an illusion, and it is shattered gently, inexorably, by the ritual that is about to begin. This ritual is known as the Levée, the rising. It is far more than simply getting out of bed. It is a public ceremony, a daily reaffirmation of the monarch's body and status. The first valet, a man of immense privilege and trust, utters the first words, "Sire, it is time." The king shifts, and with that small movement, the doors to the chamber are opened. A procession of courtiers begins to file in, each man holding a specific rank that grants him a specific right. The highest-ranking nobles in the kingdom will now compete for the honor of handing the king his shirt. It seems a trivial act, a mundane piece of clothing, but in this world it is a symbol of unparalleled favor, a non-verbal declaration of who holds the king's ear. The king stands and the nightshirt is removed. The chamberlain presents the day shirt. The nobleman who has won the privilege for that day, perhaps through loyalty or a hefty bribe to the chamberlain, steps forward. He offers the garment with a bow. The king extends his arms and the shirt is draped over him. This is the first layer of the public persona, the first step in armoring himself for the day. The procession of privilege continues. Another nobleman has the right to pour the water for the king to wash his hands. Another presents the bowl. The king splashes his face, the water cool, a brief, refreshing shock. The towels are presented by yet another. All of this is done in near silence, a ballet of practiced movements. The only sounds are the soft rustle of silk, the clink of the porcelain bowl, the gentle splash of water. There is no conversation, only ceremony. The king is a statue being prepared, an icon being dressed. His thoughts are his own, but his body belongs to the state. The valets then begin the more intricate parts of dressing. The breeches are pulled on, the stockings, the shoes. Each item is passed from a servant to a courtier, and from the courtier to the king, or to the valet who will assist him. The king is not permitted to dress himself. That would be beneath his station. His dependence on his court is physically reinforced with every button fastened, every buckle closed. Next comes the wig. In the 17th and 18th centuries, the wig was not merely fashion, it was a non-negotiable symbol of power and status. The king's own hair would have been cut very short or even shaved to accommodate the wig. The perruquier, the wig master, approaches. The wig is an elaborate construction of human hair, often powdered white with wheat flour or potato starch, scented with lavender or orange blossom to mask any unpleasant odors. It is heavy and itchy. The perruquier settles it onto the king's head with a practiced hand, adjusting the curls that cascade down the shoulders. The king's face, now framed by this imposing structure, begins to look less like the private man from minutes before and more like the coinage of the realm. He is becoming his portrait. Finally, the final layers. The waistcoat is buttoned, the cravat, a complex arrangement of lace and linen, is tied, and then the coat. This is often a masterpiece of tailoring, embroidered with gold or silver thread, heavy and restrictive. It is designed not for comfort, but for display. It broadcasts wealth and power with every thread. Once the coat is on, the final touch is offered. On a velvet cushion, a courtier brings forth the sword. It is a ceremonial weapon, but it is real. The king grips the hilt and the scabbard is attached to his belt. The weight of the steel at his hip is a constant physical reminder of his role as the head of the army, the final arbiter of violence in his kingdom. He is now fully armored. The private man is gone, submerged beneath silk, powder, and symbolism. The levee concludes. The courtiers bow and retreat backwards, leaving the king with his immediate attendants. The first and most intimate act of his day has been a public performance. He has not yet spoken a word, but he has already held court. The king now moves from his bedchamber to his private chapel for morning mass. The walk through the palace corridors is another procession. Guards stand at attention, their muskets and halberds precisely positioned. Servants and lower courtiers press against the walls, bowing deeply as he passes. He may acknowledge them with a slight nod, or more likely, look straight ahead. His focus is on the coming prayer. The chapel is small and ornate, reserved for the royal family and their highest guests. The priest is already waiting. The Mass is a short one, but it is essential. In an age where the doctrine of the divine right of kings prevails, this is not just a matter of personal faith, it is a political statement. The king kneels. The Latin phrases wash over him, familiar and soothing. Dominus vobiscum, the Lord be with you. In this moment, he is not a ruler, but a supplicant. He is reaffirming the belief that his power is granted by God himself, that his bloodline is chosen. This divine sanction is the bedrock of his authority. It justifies every edict, every tax, every declaration of war. The Mass is a transaction, a daily renewal of this celestial contract. He prays for guidance, for the strength to rule justly, for the health of his kingdom. The incense curls upwards, a sweet, smoky veil between the earthly and the divine. For 20 minutes, the weight of the crown feels lighter, shared with a higher power. With the spiritual duties attended to, the temporal duties begin. The king proceeds to his council chamber. This is the engine room of the kingdom. Here, he meets with his ministers, the Minister of Finance, the Minister of War, the Minister of the Royal Household. These are the men who translate his will into action. The room is paneled in dark wood, maps pinned to the walls, and a large rectangular table dominates the center. The king takes his seat at the head. This is not the ceremonial formality of the Levée, this is the gritty business of rule. The Minister of Finance presents the latest reports on tax revenues. There are always deficits, always unexpected expenses, a fleet of ships to be repaired, a granary to be filled in preparation for a poor harvest. The king must listen, ask questions, and make decisions. He is surrounded by data, by petitions, by memos. The Minister of War has dispatches from the borders, troop movements of arrival power, reports on the morale and supplies of his own regiments. The king is the commander-in-chief. He must understand strategy, logistics, the cost of gunpowder and cannonballs. A single misplaced signature could lead to a disastrous campaign, the loss of thousands of lives, and the weakening of his dynasty. His ministers are not always in agreement. Factions form. One minister argues for a preemptive strike, another for diplomacy and a marriage alliance. The king must listen to the arguments, sift through the conflicting advice, and choose a path. His decision is final. There is no higher court of appeal. The responsibility rests solely on his shoulders. This council can last for hours. The light in the room changes as the morning sun climbs higher, casting long, slow-moving shadows across the maps of his domains. He may feel a headache beginning to press behind his eyes, the result of intense concentration and the still heavy wig. A servant might bring him a glass of wine, diluted with water, but there is no break. The kingdom does not pause. After the intensity of the council meeting, the king is permitted a brief respite. He retires to his private apartments, his cabinet. These are rooms where the public gaze is less intense, though never fully absent. Here, he might attend to his correspondence, letters from ambassadors and foreign courts, from provincial governors, from scholars and artists seeking patronage. His secretary is present, taking dictation. The king's words are measured, precise. A letter is not just a message, it is a state document. It could be published, used as evidence in a treaty, or scrutinized for hidden meanings. He signs each one with a flourish, his signature a symbol of his will. The physical act of signing is constant. Dozens, sometimes hundreds of documents require his signature each day. Appointments, promotions, grants of land, pardons. It is a repetitive, monotonous task, but each stroke of the pen changes a life, directs a resource, alters the course of the state. The pile of papers seems endless. It is a mountain that regenerates itself overnight. He dips his quill into the inkwell again and again, the scratch of the nib on parchment a soft, persistent soundtrack to his reign. Following this period of work, it is time for the main meal of the day, dinner. But for a king, no meal is a simple affair. This is the grand couvert, the public dinner. The king and his family dine in a stateroom, at a table raised on a dais, while the court looks on. It is another performance. The doors are thrown open, and any courtier who is properly dressed is admitted to watch their sovereign eat. The room is crowded, humming with the low murmur of voices. The king and queen take their seats. The service is of solid gold or the finest porcelain. The meal is a procession of dishes, often as many as 20 or 30 courses, though the king might only take a small taste of each. Soup, fish, game, roasted meats, pastries, and sweets are paraded before him. Each dish is presented by a servant who bows, and then the food is tasted by an official, the officier de la bouche, to ensure it has not been poisoned. The king eats under the gaze of hundreds. Every gesture is noted. Does he seem to enjoy the capon? He smiled at a comment from his brother. Perhaps a new favor is being granted. He barely touched the pheasant. The chef will be in a panic. There is no private conversation. The family speaks in low tones, their faces composed into masks of pleasant neutrality. The king might nod to a favored courtier in the crowd, a gesture that will be analyzed for days. The meal is not for nourishment, it is for display. It is a theater of abundance, a demonstration of the wealth and stability of the realm. To the watching court, the sight of the king eating heartily is a sign that all is well. It is exhausting. The smells of the food, the heat from the bodies in the room, the glare of the candlelight on the gold plate, the constant, subtle pressure to perform. It is a sensory assault that lasts for over an hour. When he finally rises from the table, the court bows, and he can escape. The afternoon offers a sliver of freedom, a few hours where the king's time is his own to allocate. This is when he might pursue his passe-temps, his pastimes. For some kings, this meant the hunt. The hunt was more than a sport. It was a rehearsal for war, a demonstration of martial vigor and courage. The king would change into riding clothes, still fine but more practical. The court would assemble in the courtyard, a colorful cavalcade of horses, hounds, and hunters. They would ride out into the royal forests, a vast, managed wilderness. The sound of the horns echoing through the trees, the baying of the hounds, the thunder of hooves. This was a welcome release from the stifling formality of the palace. Here, the king could exert himself physically. He could feel the wind on his face, the power of the horse beneath him. He could focus on the singular primal goal of the chase. It was dangerous, and that was part of the appeal. A fall from a horse, a charge from a wounded boar, these were real risks. In those moments, he was not a symbol, but a man, testing his strength and skill against nature. He would return to the palace flushed, tired, and for a few precious moments, truly refreshed. For other kings, the afternoon was a time for intellectual or artistic pursuits. Louis XVI of France was a renowned locksmith, finding solace in the intricate, logical mechanics of locks and clocks. He had a full workshop within Versailles. In that room, surrounded by tools and metal shavings, he was not the king, he was a craftsman. The satisfaction of fitting a tiny spring or crafting a perfect key was a tangible, personal achievement, so different from the abstract and often thankless task of governing millions. Another king might retreat to his library to read dispatches from scientific expeditions or the latest philosophical treatises. He might meet with his architect to review plans for a new wing of the palace, or with the director of his gardens to discuss the planting of a new orchard. These hours, from 2 until 5, are the most human part of his day. They are a concession to the individual who lives inside the monarch. But the respite is always temporary. As the afternoon light begins to soften, the king is drawn back into the public sphere. It is time for the promenade. The king, followed by his court, walks through the state apartments, or more commonly, in the meticulously ordered gardens. The gardens are a testament to the human desire to control nature. The hedges are clipped into perfect geometric shapes. The paths are laid out in rigid lines radiating from the palace. The fountains play on a strict schedule. The king's walk is a slow, stately procession. He might stop to speak with a courtier, a few words of greeting, or a question about their family. These seemingly casual interactions are highly choreographed. A word from the king can make a courtier's career. A snub can destroy it. The court swarms around him, a human tide, ebbing and flowing with his movements. They are all vying for a moment of his attention, a glance, a nod. He is the sun, and they are the planets in his orbit. He must be gracious, he must be accessible, but he must also maintain his distance. It is a delicate, draining balancing act. He walks, and the court follows, their silk shoes whispering on the gravel paths. As dusk begins to settle, the palace transforms. Thousands of candles are lit in the chandeliers and sconces, casting a warm, flickering glow over the gilded interiors. The evening is dedicated to entertainment and socialization. This could take many forms. On some nights, there might be a formal concert in the chapel or a salon. The king and the court would listen to the latest compositions, perhaps by a composer like Lully or Couperin, who is in the royal employ. The music is formal, elegant, and complex, a mirror of the court itself. On other nights, there might be gambling. Card tables are set up in the staterooms. The games, faro, basset, are fast-paced and involve high stakes. The king might join a table, and the courtiers will eagerly play against him, often losing deliberately, a subtle and expensive form of flattery. The clatter of the dice, the shuffle of the cards, the murmur of bets being placed, these are the sounds of the royal evening. Perhaps the most elaborate form of evening entertainment is the ball, or the masked ball. The great hall is prepared, the floor polished to a high sheen. The courtiers appear in their most magnificent attire, the women in wide pannier gowns, their faces masked, the men in embroidered coats. The king leads the first dance. The music swells and the stately patterned movements of the minuet begin. It is a dance of precision and restraint, with small, graceful steps and formal bows. There is no wild abandon here, only controlled display. The king moves through the figures of the dance, his partner chosen by rank and protocol. He smiles, he makes pleasant conversation, but his eyes are constantly scanning the room, observing, assessing. Even in revelry, he is working. The ball is a political landscape, a map of alliances and enmities played out in silk and satin. He will dance a few more dances, make a circuit of the room, and then, often, he will retire before the festivities are over, leaving his court to enjoy the liberty of his absence. The day that began with a public ceremony must now end with one. The coucher is the mirror image of the levée. The king returns to his bedchamber. The same courtiers who dressed him now have the privilege of undressing him. The ceremony is repeated in reverse. The sword is removed, placed carefully back on its velvet cushion. The heavy coat is taken off, then the waistcoat, the cravat. The wig is carefully lifted from his head by the perruquier, revealing the king's own short, likely sweaty, hair beneath. Each layer that is removed is a layer of the public persona being shed. The courtiers present the items, the nightshirt, the robe. The rituals are the same, the bows, the silent precision. Finally, the last courtier backs out of the room, leaving the king with his first valet. The valet helps him into the vast bed, its curtains drawn to create a small, private space within the cavernous room. The candle is extinguished, or its flame is turned low. Silence. Darkness. The scent of the extinguished candle wick. The king is alone. The sounds of the palace are muted. The distant tread of a guard in the hallway, the faint, fading strains of music from the ballroom. He lies in the dark, and the events of the day replay in his mind. The decisions made, the faces seen, the words spoken and unspoken. The weight of the crown may be physically gone, but its impression remains. He is tired, bone-tired, from the performance of being himself. He drifts towards sleep, not as a king, but as a man, knowing that in a few short hours, the gray light will seep once more through the curtains. The door will open, and the first valet will utter the same words. "Sire, it is time." The unchanging clock of kingship will begin its cycle anew. And as you listen to this rhythm, this predictable, endless cycle of duty and ritual, let your own mind settle. Let the weight of this king's crown become a distant, heavy blanket that presses you down into your own bed, into the safety of your own anonymity, into the deep and peaceful silence of sleep. The court is silent. The candles are out. The king is resting. And so too can you. Let your breathing become as slow and measured as the steps of the minuet. Let the darkness of the royal bedchamber become your own. There are no petitions here, no courtiers, no decisions to be made, only rest. Deep, quiet, and uninterrupted rest.